I sat alone at wedding until a Mafia Billionaire man whispered, "Pretend you're with me too." The morning after their dinner at Famiglia, Sophia awoke to an unsettling silence in her tiny apartment. Chicago throbbed outside her window with its usual rhythm, horns blaring, buses groaning, footsteps on the pavement, but inside her four walls, the world felt irrevocably altered. The faint aroma of garlic and wine still lingered in her hair, a ghost of the night before. More haunting than the scent, though, was the memory of Dante's touch, the way his fingers had closed around hers, steady and unyielding, as though he could anchor her to a world she didn't yet understand. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every word, every dangerous truth he had laid bare. "He's offering you the chance to live." The phrase echoed through her like a forbidden hymn. Live. Such a simple word, yet in Dante Salvatore's world it was no promise of comfort. It was a dare. What did it mean to live in his world? And what price would it demand? Her phone vibrated on the nightstand, startling her. A single text illuminated the screen. "Good morning, Sophia. Thinking of you. D." A smile, small, unwilling, but undeniably real, tugged at her lips. The message was brief, undemanding, and yet it tied her to him in a way that felt both terrifying and thrilling. She typed back quickly, "Good morning to you too." But before pressing send, her thumb hovered, trembling. This was real. This was happening. In the kitchen, she poured coffee into a chipped mug, staring at the familiar scene, the worn counter, the stack of graded papers waiting on the table. They were artifacts of her old existence. Safe, predictable, invisible, and as Dante had said so bluntly, they weren't living. By mid-afternoon, the intrusion began. A bouquet waited outside her apartment door, black roses threaded with blood-red blooms. Their dark velvet petals glistened under the paper wrapping, sinister and beautiful all at once. The card tucked inside read, "For the bravest woman I know. D." Her breath caught. Black roses. Not cheerful daisies. Not timid tulips. This was Dante, distilled, striking, unconventional, tinged with danger. Then came the call from her school principal. "Sophia, we've just received a substantial anonymous donation for the arts program. The donor specifically mentioned your name, your passion for painting. Before we continue, thank you all for your warming comments in part 1. Now let's go into this, but please do like and subscribe to part 2. Her pulse kicked. "Dante." "That's incredible," she said, cheeks heating. The principal chuckled. "He insisted on anonymity, but it will fund the new easels you've been requesting for years." She hung up, shaken. He remembered her casual confession about painting. And he hadn't just listened, he had acted. It was thoughtful, generous, and at the same time, a flex of his reach. Later that week at the market, Sophia noticed him. Not Dante, but a man, broad, silent, pretending to inspect artisanal cheeses. His stance was casual, his gaze anything but. He wasn't there for Brie. He was there for her. When she returned home, her phone buzzed again. "My apologies if my presence felt intrusive. I just wanted to ensure you were safe." D. Her hands trembled as she typed back, "I saw him. He was very still. He's one of my best," came the reply. "Trustworthy. Invisible unless needed. He won't interfere unless absolutely necessary." A chill wrapped around her. This wasn't about dates and whispered secrets anymore. This was bodyguards in grocery stores, power plays disguised as donations, and shadows at her doorstep. This was Dante Salvatore's world tightening around her like a velvet noose. Days later, his voice filled her phone, deep and resonant, vibrating through her chest. "Sophia, there's a charity gala tonight. Important for me to be seen. I want you with me. Her lips curved despite herself. Another test? Of sorts, he admitted, a low chuckle rumbling like thunder. But this one is about more than appearances. It's about showing the right people you're mine. And the wrong people, they'll see it too. And they'll know the cost of touching what belongs to me. Possessiveness should have terrified her. But instead, heat curled low in her belly. She was his. For tonight, for however long this illusion lasted, she belonged to Dante Salvatore. That afternoon, a box arrived. Inside lay a gown of hunter green silk, bias cut to flow like liquid around her body. Its neckline dipped just enough to tease. The back swooped low to bear the elegant curve of her spine. Nestled beside it were emerald drop earrings and a delicate diamond bracelet. And when Dante arrived, the world tilted. He filled her doorway in a black tuxedo, every line of him cut sharp as a blade. His gaze swept over her, slow and thorough, and his mouth curved into a smile that made her knees weaken. Breathtaking, he murmured, voice husky with unguarded hunger. He lifted a small velvet box. For you. Inside, a raw emerald pendant, imperfect yet mesmerizing, strung on silver. It reminds me of you, he said, fastening it at the nape of her neck, his fingers brushing sensitive skin. Unconventional, resilient, impossible to ignore. The gala shimmered like another universe. Marble halls stretched beneath crystal chandeliers, every wall hung with priceless art. Perfume mingled with champagne, money whispered in every corner. As Dante guided her inside, conversations faltered. Heads turned. Whispers chased them like ripples in water. Sophia's panic flared, until Dante's hand closed over hers, thumb drawing lazy circles into her skin. You belong, his eyes said. With me, you always belong. Act like you do, he murmured against her ear, his breath hot silk. Because tonight you do. Introductions blurred past, powerful men with cold smiles, women dressed like predators in couture. Each time, Dante's voice lingered on my Sophia, my girlfriend. The words branded her, thrilling and dangerous all at once. Later, as they stood before a towering window overlooking Chicago's glittering skyline, a voice like cold steel slid into the air.
Dante.
What a surprise to see you here. Vincent Romano. Immaculate in silver hair and custom tailoring, his eyes glinted like shards of ice. Beside him, Marco's smile curved, sharp, mocking, promising trouble. Vincent, Dante replied, his voice even, the surface calm belying the steel coiled beneath it. He tightened his grip on Sophia's hand as if to remind the room, and himself, that she was not alone. And Marco, an unexpected pleasure. Vincent's gaze slid over Sophia like a slow, clinical appraisal, measuring, calculating. Miss Moretti, I trust you've been well since our last encounter. I have, Mr. Romano. Sophia met his cold stare head-on, her voice steady though her pulse thudded in her throat. Still considering my offer? Vincent asked, syrup-soft words hiding a blade. Opportunities such as those I mentioned are rare. And fleeting. Sophia is a busy woman, Dante interjected, the low rumble of his voice like distant thunder. Her time is not for sale. Vincent's thin smile didn't shift. Every person has a price, Dante. And every legacy can be claimed. His eyes found Dante's, and the chill in them carried a quiet threat. Especially those left unguarded. The air between them tightened, charged with words left unsaid. Sophia felt the heat of Dante's anger like a physical presence at her side. The Moretti legacy, Dante said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper that only she could hear, is not for you to claim, Vincent. It belongs to blood. And Sophia's blood runs pure. Vincent's jaw flexed, a shadow of something harder passing through his eyes. We shall see, he said at last, every syllable a promise and a warning. Perhaps Miss Moretti will find our offer more compelling in due time. He inclined his head once, then melted back into the milling crowd like a shark swallowing its prey. Sophia exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. He's relentless, she murmured. He is. Dante's thumb stroked the back of her hand, slow and possessive. But he underestimates you. And he underestimates me. He turned her, his gaze boring into hers with a heat that made her knees go momentarily weak. Are you all right? Yes. She forced the answer out and let a small, brittle smile appear. I think I'm getting used to being a target. Dante's smile was a predator's, slow and all-consuming. Good. Because I intend to make you an even bigger one. His eyes dipped to her lips, and the hush around them thickened, intimate and electric. I think we've earned a moment to ourselves. He guided her away from the main hall, past clusters of laughing guests and towering canvases, into a quieter vein of the museum where the modern sculptures loomed like silent sentinels. The music grew distant. Footsteps echoed. The light here was dim, the shadows long, and the air felt private. You handled yourself beautifully tonight, he murmured, hands settling at her waist with a gravity that anchored her. He drew her in until his chest pressed against hers. You belong here, Sophia. With you? She breathed, the words barely more than a wisp. Always with me. For a fraction of a second his mask slipped, and she saw something raw and human in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that tightened her chest. I know this is fast. Faster than either of us imagined. But I feel something, an undeniable pull. A connection I haven't known my whole life. Her heart ratcheted like a machine. He was close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath, the faint tang of wine on his lips, the deeper note of cedar, and something darker that clung to him like a scent memory. Dante. Her voice was a half-formed plea. His head dipped slowly, gaze still caught in hers as if searching for permission. Her mind scrambled to catalog reasons to stop. His world, her safety, Isabella's warning, but her body moved on its own. Her fingers found the lapel of his tuxedo, curling into the expensive fabric as if to hold on to the moment. Then his lips lowered to hers. It began slow, deliberate. The press of mouth on mouth was an answering to weeks of tension and the weight of things unsaid. There was a softness at the edges, tested tenderness, as if he were mapping where she started and where he could go. A small exhale left her. The kiss deepened, urgent now, hungry in a way that felt inevitable. She tasted wine and the metallic hint of danger that was Dante, an intoxicating, forbidden flavor. Her hands threaded into the dark at the nape of his neck, fingers tangling in hair that smelled of rain and something older. When he finally broke away, both of them breathless, his forehead rested against hers, and his eyes glittered with an emotion she'd not yet learned to name. Sophia, he breathed, voice raw, you have no idea what you do to me. She trembled, a tremor of fear braided with a fierce exhilaration. There was a line erased between them now, a crossing that changed everything. I think I'm starting to, she whispered, shaky but steady. His smile was possessive, a dangerous caress. Good. Because this is just the beginning. He laced his fingers through hers and led her back into the thrum of the gala, hand bold and public, a claim in front of witnesses. Whispers rose like a tide, curiosity sharpening into speculation. But Sophia, heart pounding, felt the dizzying rush of being seen and chosen. They stepped into the cool night air, and the city grew around them, neon, traffic, a different kind of hum, when Isabella appeared from the shadow of a colonnade, pale and wild-eyed. Sophia, I saw you with him. What are you doing? You have to stop. Her voice cut across the night like a raw plea. Dante's arm tightened around Sophia's waist. His gaze snapped to Isabella, ice replacing the warmth. Isabella, this is neither the time nor the place. But she doesn't understand. Isabella grabbed at Sophia's sleeve, hands trembling. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, Sophia. His family, the Salvatores, they're too dangerous. You can't trust him. Sophia looked at her cousin, at the desperation etched in the younger woman's features, and felt a mix of pity and a stubborn, rising frustration. I know who he is, Isabella, and I'm making my own choices. Isabella's words as if poured from a wound. But Vincent Romano is already making plans to use you. He was just talking about your grandfather, about the Moretti legacy, saying how he would cultivate it through you. Dante's jaw locked, the line of his face hard as flint. He won't touch her, he said. He will. Isabella burst out, voice cracking. He'll use you against Dante, or Michael, or to legitimize his entire enterprise. You're a pawn, Sophia. Enough. The single word snapped from Dante like a whip. He drew Sophia closer, an unmistakable shield between them and Isabella's frantic fear. Sophia is with me, and no one touches what's mine. He met Isabella's eyes, cold, unblinking. You would do well to remember that, cousin. Isabella flinched as if struck. Her eyes, brimming with terror and accusation, found Sophia once more. Please, Sophia, be careful. They will destroy you. With that, she turned away and vanished into the night, leaving a hollow space that smelled of hurried perfume and fear. Sophia watched her go, a ghost of sadness washing through the bloom of adrenaline in her veins. Isabella saw her as a pawn, and perhaps in the wrong hands she would be. But with Dante, Sophia felt, for the first time, dangerous, powerful, seen. She turned back to Dante. She's scared, she said quietly. She should be, Dante admitted, voice low and grim. But not for you. Not while you're with me. His eyes, fierce and unyielding, promised both shield and chain. Now let's go home. The days after Isabella's warning became a tight blur, coffee-fueled mornings, classroom laughter, then the electric charge of his texts and calls threading through each afternoon. Sophia taught children to count and read, then walked home to a life watched over by Leo, a silent, steady presence in the doorway whenever she returned. He was the sort of man who belonged more to the shadows than the light, broad-shouldered, unreadable, always placed where he could see but be unseen. Dante's presence was a new kind of weather. Sometimes it was a warm sun that lit up her worn kitchen, other times it stormed with a force that left her breathless. He texted small, insistent messages during the day and called at night. Dinners at exclusive restaurants where the staff moved with the precise choreography reserved for the powerful, laughter that felt private and intimate in rooms full of strangers. One evening, after a late meal that tasted of saffron and promise, they sat on her small sofa with the city folding away beyond the glass. Dante had been telling a story, a sliver of his past, given like a delicate offering, and she found herself leaning into the sound of him. His hand found hers, thumb drawing a slow, familiar pattern over her knuckles. Sophia, he said, voice dropping to a hush, I need you. Her breath stuttered. Her chest tightened like a drawn bow. She had feared this confession and longed for it in equal measure. The intensity in his gaze felt almost too much. It pressed against the fragile boundaries she still clung to. Dante, her whisper was a surrender and a test. He closed the distance between them, eyes searching hers the way someone searches a map for the right route home. Her gaze slid to his mouth, and then back again, a silent admission. He kissed her, hungrily, as if the world had narrowed to that single point where their mouths met. The kiss was no longer tentative. It was an answering, a reckoning. His hands cradled her face before they slid to the small of her back, pulling her flush with him. She matched him with equal fervor, fingers threading through the dark at his neck. Outside, the city continued its restless hum. Inside, time thinned until there was only them. When he drew back, forehead against hers, breath hot and ragged, his voice came out in a raw, simple confession. Sophia, I want you. Completely. She nodded because words felt too brittle and insufficient. Her body hummed with the truth of it. She was trembling, yes, but the tremor contained a hardening resolve. She had wanted this and feared it, and now, in its taste and consequence, she felt irrevocably altered. He lifted her into his arms as though she weighed nothing, carrying her across the small apartment with a steady, unhurried strength. The bedroom glowed faintly with light from the street lamp outside, soft bars of gold slicing through the blinds and painting patterns across the bed. He laid her down gently, reverently, as though she were something both fragile and untouchable. His gaze never left hers. Those dark eyes burned with hunger, not reckless, but honed, focused, the kind of hunger that saw everything and wanted everything. Stretching out beside her, he propped himself on one elbow, his shadow draping over her. Fingers traced her jaw, a whisper of touch sliding down her throat, pausing at the swell of her chest. Each stroke was deliberate, electric, coaxing shivers across her skin. "You are so beautiful," he murmured, the words thickened by a growl buried deep in his chest. Heat rushed to her cheeks, not from shame but from the startling, intoxicating reality of being truly seen, wholly and unapologetically, for the first time. His mouth found hers again, slower this time, a lingering exploration, savoring her lips as if every second mattered. His hand moved to the zipper of her dress. He tugged gently, eyes locked on hers, waiting. The sound of the zipper sliding down filled the silence with a promise. Her breath caught. The cool air kissed the bare skin of her back, raising goosebumps. He pulled away just enough to look at her. His gaze scorched her newly revealed skin. "May I?" His voice was a rasp, heavy with restraint, with desire held barely in check. "Yes." The word left her as a whisper, threaded with urgency. "Please." The fabric slid from her shoulders. The dress pooled at her waist, followed by her bra, then the skirt. Soon she lay before him in lace and shadow, her heart pounding, her body bared. But instead of fear, she felt only a wild, soaring freedom. He looked at her as if she were art, as if every curve, every line had been sculpted to undo him. "Perfect," he breathed. In one fluid motion, he stripped himself bare, his body cut from years of discipline and danger. Muscled, lean, formidable. He lowered himself over her, careful but insistent, the heat of his skin fusing with hers. The first kiss of skin to skin sent fire streaking through her veins. His weight pressed her into the mattress, grounding her, claiming her. His mouth was hot, urgent, pulling sighs from her throat. His hands mapped her body, worshipping every inch, until gasps spilled from her lips like confessions she hadn't meant to speak aloud. "You feel incredible," he whispered against her, his mouth trailing down her throat, tasting her collarbone, teasing her breasts until her back arched with need. When he finally slid inside her, it was slow, deliberate, acclaiming. Her gasp cracked the air. The sharp stretch gave way to a fullness that stole her breath. He paused, watching her face, as though every flicker of her expression was sacred. Then he moved. A rhythm born of control and fire, slow at first, building, relentless. She rose to meet him, body answering his with a primal cadence as old as time. Their breaths tangled, their moans a duet of hunger. The pleasure climbed higher, tighter, until she thought her body would break under the intensity. Her nails dug into his shoulders, pulling him closer, grounding herself in the rough perfection of him. A groan ripped from his throat, raw and guttural. His thrusts grew more urgent, more consuming. And when the tension broke, when she shattered beneath him in a rush of heat and light, he followed, a cry tearing from his lips as he emptied himself into her. They collapsed together, tangled in sweat and silence, the room steeped in the heady scent of sex. His body pinned her in a way that didn't suffocate but comforted. His arms wrapped around her like chains and shelter all at once. She was undone, spent, yet wholly, vividly alive. "Sophia," he whispered hoarsely, lips brushing her hair. "You are mine." A smile curled her lips, sleepy and certain. "And you, Dante, are mine." Dawn bled pale light across the city. The tranquility shattered with the sharp buzz of her phone. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Dread pooled in her stomach. "Miss Moretti?" The silky, venom-laced voice on the other end slithered into her ear. "Vincent Romano." I trust you had an enjoyable evening with young Salvatore? Sophia froze, Dante stirring beside her. Alarm jolted through her. How did you get this number? Vincent chuckled, low, humorless, predatory. A gentleman always has his ways. I called to reiterate my offer, to discuss how your grandfather's legacy might truly flourish under the right patronage. Dante was awake now, his body snapping into alertness. He plucked the phone from her hand with lethal calm. His jaw clenched, his eyes flashing dangerous fire. Romano, Dante growled, voice deadly soft. You have 3 seconds to explain why you're calling my girlfriend. A beat of silence. Then Vincent's smooth reply, steeped in mockery. Ah, Dante. Ever the protector, but perhaps too protective. A weakness in your line of work. She is not a weakness, Dante snarled, his voice cutting like a blade. She is my strength, and she is under my protection. If you contact her again, if you even breathe near her, I'll unleash the full weight of the Salvatore family. Do you understand me? Vincent's chuckle slithered back. So dramatic, Dante. But my interest in Miss Moretti is purely professional. Her inheritance. Her family's legacy. Perhaps she's grown weary of your methods. She's not interested in your poisonous offers, Dante spat. Stay away from her, Vincent. Or regret it. The line went dead. Dante's grip on the phone was so tight it threatened to snap. His gaze cut to Sophia, fury simmering beneath the surface. He's playing games, Dante muttered, voice taut. He thinks your grandfather's name gives him leverage. He thinks he can bait you. Sophia's chest tightened. He said something about an inheritance. What does he mean? Dante raked a hand through his hair, agitation breaking through his controlled mask. Antonio Moretti wasn't just a businessman. He was influence. Quiet, absolute influence. He left it all to your father, and now to you. Symbolic power, Sophia. And the Romanos want it. If they can't charm you, they'll try to force you. Her blood ran cold. So, I'm the key they want? You're more than that. He pulled her into his arms, voice iron and promise. You're mine, which means they'll never touch you. The days that followed were a suffocating dance of protection and danger. Security doubled. Leo was joined by another silent shadow. Packages were screened. Strangers scrutinized. Sophia felt both safe and trapped, grateful for the fortress Dante built, yet restless inside its walls. One evening, he arrived at her apartment, the weight of the world written in the lines of his face. We need to talk. His voice was low, grave. Her pulse spiked. What's wrong? Vincent Romano is tightening his grip. He's freezing dormant assets, exploiting loopholes. He's clawing at your grandfather's legacy through the courts. My family's assets? She asked, stunned. I didn't think there was anything left. There is, Dante said grimly. Properties. Businesses. Influence written into stone. Your father let it drift, but the trust preserved it. Now it falls to you. And Vincent wants it, she whispered. He thinks you're vulnerable. Dante's eyes blazed. He's wrong. A defiance she didn't expect surged inside her. He doesn't know me. No, he doesn't. His gaze softened briefly. But he will, which is why we need to make a statement. What kind of statement? One that shows the city you are mine, that the Moretti legacy is untouchable. The very next day, the gossip column sang. A mysterious romance. Dante Salvatore and Sophia Moretti, the heir to Antonio Moretti's legacy, inseparable. A woman of grace, a man of power. Together, they are untouchable. The city whispered. The Romano family seethed. And that afternoon, the phone rang again. Isabella. Sophia. Isabella's voice cracked down the line, ragged with panic. Have you seen the papers? What are you doing? This is exactly what I warned you about. Now, everyone knows you're involved. Vincent is furious. He can be furious all he wants, Sophia replied, her voice steadier than she expected, steel threading through it. I'm not his to control, Isabella. But he'll come after you. Isabella's words tumbled out, shrill with desperation. He'll use you against Dante. He'll use you against Michael. Don't you see? He sees you as the key to everything. Then I'll be ready, Sophia said firmly, her gaze hardening as she stared at her own reflection in the window. I'm not going back to being invisible, Isabella. Not for anyone. And with that, she hung up. A quiet resolve settled inside her, heavy and unshakable. Dante arrived an hour later, carrying a bouquet of deep red roses that filled the room with a heady fragrance. He scanned her apartment as he stepped inside, as if ensuring it hadn't been breached, then fixed his gaze on her. The column made quite the splash, he said, satisfaction laced beneath his words. Isabella called. Sophia replied, her voice quieter now. She's terrified. Dante's jaw tightened, a muscle flickering. She has reason to be. Vincent is escalating. He just attempted to place a lien on your grandfather's old warehouse property, claiming an ancient family debt. It was nothing but a probe, a test of how far he could push. And what did you do? My lawyers had it dismissed before the ink was dry, he said with a cold finality. A message was sent. But he won't give up easily. His expression softened, the predator melting into something achingly human. This is getting more dangerous, Sophia. Are you sure you still want to be part of this? She stepped into him, pressing her palms flat against his chest, feeling the thud of his heartbeat. More than ever. I won't let him twist my grandfather's legacy, and I won't let him threaten you. His eyes darkened with a raw, consuming emotion that stole her breath. You truly are the bravest woman I know. His lips brushed hers in a kiss that was tender, but loaded with unspoken vows. It wasn't about passion this time, it was a promise, binding them together. I'll protect you, he murmured against her lips. No matter what it takes. And Sophia believed him. In that moment, she knew with unshakable certainty. She was ready to face whatever storm came, as long as Dante was by her side. A week later, tension had become a constant hum in her life, the backdrop to everything. Dante was a whirlwind of power plays, meetings, and ruthless negotiations, shielding her from the brunt of the Romano offensive. But she saw the cracks, the sharp lines carved deeper around his eyes, the perpetual tautness of his jaw, the way his hand lingered just a little too long at the small of her back, as though he feared letting go. One afternoon, a discreet envelope arrived, hand-delivered by a stranger with the watchful eyes of someone firmly within Dante's world. Sophia opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a heavy card, embossed and formal. You are cordially invited to an intimate dinner at the residence of Vincent Romano. An opportunity to discuss the future of the Moretti legacy. Black tie. This Friday, 8 p.m. Your presence is highly anticipated. No RSVP. No return address. Just a summons. Sophia's stomach turned to ice. Vincent was relentless. He wasn't just clawing at assets anymore, he was pulling her into his orbit, daring her to stand across from him. She knew Dante would never allow it. To him, it would scream of trap, of provocation. But a spark inside her, stubborn, reckless, defiant, whispered that maybe she needed to see this world for herself. If she was to carry her grandfather's legacy, she couldn't hide behind Dante's shadow forever. She had to face Vincent with her own eyes. Still, she remembered Dante's words at Famiglia. Honesty. No secrets about my family or yours. If she went, she'd have to tell him. And if she told him, he'd stop her. The plan came together in a whisper of rebellion. She would go. She would listen. She would gather whatever information she could. And later, she would tell Dante everything. That night, when Dante called, she forced her voice into casual lightness. How was your day? Frustrating, he admitted, a sigh roughening the edges of his tone. Vincent is like a hydra, cut off one head, and two more appear. He's leaning on our smaller distributors, trying to spin lies about the Moretti connections being his to offer. Moretti connections? Sophia asked, feigning ignorance. Yes. He's trying to claim your family's influence as his own. It's infuriating. A pause, then softer. I miss you. Can I come over? Her throat tightened. The lie tasted bitter as it left her tongue. I've got so much grading to do, long day. Maybe tomorrow? Of course. His disappointment was audible, though he covered it with tenderness. Rest, Sophia. I'll see you tomorrow. She closed her eyes after hanging up, guilt gnawing at her. But she knew this was the only way. Friday arrived like a storm. Sophia dressed with precision, choosing a simple black gown, sleek, elegant, stripped of ornamentation. She pulled her hair into a severe low bun, a soldier's knot, armor disguised as elegance. Around her neck hung Dante's emerald necklace, the single raw stone cool against her skin, a reminder of him, of protection, even as she stepped willingly into danger. The cab rolled through the night, carrying her to the Romano estate. When it stopped, her breath stilled. The mansion rose behind towering gates, its grounds manicured to perfection, its facade whispering of old money, old power, and old secrets. The gates opened silently at her arrival, as though they'd been waiting. A stone-faced man ushered her inside. The foyer smelled of lilies and waxed wood, the air heavy with wealth and control. Miss Moretti. Vincent Romano stepped out of the shadows like a host welcoming a guest. His smile was polite, practiced too smooth. He extended a dry, firm hand. Welcome to my home. I'm delighted you accepted. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Romano. Her voice was even, despite the tremor in her hands. He led her into a dining room where a mahogany table gleamed under crystal light. Only 3 places were set. Isabella sat at one end, pale and visibly uneasy. Michael, her husband, sat beside her, expression cold, unreadable. Isabella. Michael. You remember Sophia, Vincent said. Isabella's smile was weak, tinged with dread. Michael gave only a curt nod. The atmosphere pressed down on Sophia's chest, thick with unspoken tensions. Please sit. Vincent gestured to the chair opposite his. She obeyed, folding her hands in her lap, feeling their eyes weigh on her. Vincent poured wine with deliberate grace, sliding a glass toward her. I confess, I was surprised you accepted, Vincent said smoothly, his gaze sharp. After Dante's emphatic warning, I came because I want to understand, Sophia said evenly. Understand what you want from me. Understand my family's legacy. His smile widened, approval glinting in his icy stare. Commendable. Direct. Much like your grandfather. They ate in brittle silence for a few minutes, the clink of cutlery the only sound. Then Vincent set down his fork with finality. Let's dispense with the pleasantries, he said, his voice low, persuasive. I have a proposal for you. One that will benefit both our families. One that will finally restore Antonio Moretti's name to its rightful power. Sophia's pulse quickened. I'm listening. Vincent leaned forward, his tone turning reverent, manipulative. Your grandfather was a man of immense integrity. His word was law. His presence, a bridge between families. His legacy has been left dormant far too long. He glanced at Isabella and Michael, both of whom shifted under the weight of his words. Then his gaze pinned Sophia, sharp as a blade. Until now.